All right, we're going live. Boom. All right, we're going live.
Am I putting in both Patreons?
Yeah. Do you see the link?
Yeah.
Boom. Oh, Kev, you might have to mute your YouTube. Catherine, can you share that in the Boo Hive?
I think your notification sounds are still on.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Someone said they want to hear Coochie Banana.
Say what?
Nothing. I just pulled up the comments in YouTube, even though I'm about to get away from them because I don't want to be distracted.
They will distract you.
Yes, they will.
All right, the link's in the Patreons.
How long do you let them stream in? Just a couple minutes?
Wait, what? Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
so
I can't really see this. Comments. Why is this like this? There we go. Am I muted?
no.
Oh, y'all were just laughing quietly.
All right, cool. Okay, so there's about 400 people watching now. I will wait till like 6:03 and then we can start.
Cool beans.
Got my glass of wine. I'm over here acting real fancy.
Got my little cocktail myself.
Okay, what you got? You got some water?
You know, I got a little Hennessy and
Ooh.
sparkling water. So it's,
That's fancy. That's called bougietto.
I know, right? That's right. Little head, little bubbles.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, it's good.
This is supposed to be public. There's a lot of questions. This is the first and only public live, just to show you guys what it looks like. The rest of them will not be public.
All right. So, I said 6:03. So I'll be a woman of my word and give y'all another 45 seconds.
Countdown.
I'm not drinking nothing.
I know. I just said what you drinking.
I was wondering.
All right. It's 6:03. I'm going to get started. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first Love Hour After Dark. This will be a time for us to get into some very deep after dark conversations with some of my Love Hour favorites. Some of them will be with guests some of them will be with just Kevin and I, where you can ask and post questions to me and Kevin. So the very first one, we have a Love Hour favorite, one of my favorites, Dr. Rachael. If you have not listened to her episode on the Love Hour, you definitely should go back and listen to that. But in a minute, I will allow her the opportunity to introduce herself so you can get familiar and familiar with her and her work, and go follow her on the Instagram. But in the meantime, I kind of wanted to give you guys an overview of how the evening's going to go. It is laid back. I do have my glass of wine here. I didn't put on no makeup. I did curl my hair a little bit, but that was the extent of what I've done. So it's going to be a super laid back conversation. Today, we will be tackling the topic of erectile dysfunction. We do have some questions that we received, and also a voice note. If you have not heard or know, we are accepting voice notes, and I love voice notes because it gives you an opportunity. Number one, gives us an opportunity to hear your voice. But also, sometimes trying to write your question out, you can't always explain as well as you can just say it. So that gives you another avenue to send your questions into us. So make sure that you take advantage of that. In the chat, this is the one and only live that we were doing, or the one and only After Dark that we are doing. That is not Patreon only. This is to give everyone an opportunity to understand what the After Dark will entail, what it will look like, so you can decide if you want to sign up for extra exclusive and early content that we are hosting on Kev on Stage Studios Patreon account. With all of that said, because there are over probably 500, it's over 600 of you guys right now in this chat, we understand that we have opened this up to the possibility of trolls. So I'm going to shut it down now. If you troll in this here comments, we have a zero policy, zero tolerance policy to trolls. So if one of your comments has been deemed inappropriate, we have two or three moderators. Catherine is in there, and I'm assuming KB or Angelica are in there as well. I have given them 100% full authority to kick you out of the chat, and that's it. You're just out. So please be mindful. While this will be a fun environment, I do not want trolling, roasting. Let's keep the main thing, okay? And if they have decided that your comment, they just like, you know what, I just don't like what you said, and they kick you out, well, child, that's it. Bye. Just go have the rest of your good evening on this here Saturday evening, because that's it for you, okay? All hearts and minds are clear. Kev, you want to say anything?
No.
Okay. Dr. Rachael?
I think that was pretty clear.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started in this thing. I'm so excited. So what we're going to do first is allow Dr. Rachael the opportunity to introduce herself.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Dr. Rachael Ross. I am a functional family medicine physician and a clinical sexologist. So, erectile dysfunction is something that I've been helping men combat for years. I was actually I don't know if you knew this, Melissa and Kev, but I was actually a prison doctor for years, right?
No.
Male prison. So, so I've gotten, so not only with private patients, but also, prisoners. And so what I find most interesting about erectile dysfunction is that, or I call it E-function, erectile function, because we want everybody's erections functioning, not dysfunctioning.
Uh-huh.
The most interesting thing about it is that it's happening from, 20-year-olds on up.
20 years old.
Specific. Yes. Believe it or not, 20 years old. My youngest patient ever was 22, actually, because
wow,
when you think about all the stuff that goes into making an erection work, there's different places that it can actually start to go wrong or fail you, from all the way from up here to down here. So, there's so many different ways to tackle it, and there's so many different age groups that it actually affects. So, for those of you guys watching, I have a YouTube channel too. It's Dr. Rachael. I have it up on the screen there. Erectile dysfunction happens to be one of the main things, right? One of the main things that I talk about recently. And so, helping guys with E-function, I love it because sometimes it's the smallest little thing that we can tweak and get things moving, so to speak, in the right direction. So
Oh, I love that. Okay, so that was actually really good. Before we kind of dive right into the very first question, or the audio question that we have, can you explain to people what a sexologist is? I feel like that's kind of a newer age term, and maybe people don't have a full grasp as to what that means and what you do.
Great question. So sexologists, we help people with anything sexuality and sex related. So whether it's maybe a couple whose sex drive isn't where it's supposed to be, or maybe it's two people who really love each other, but they're like best friends and the sex part doesn't work very well, or maybe someone struggling with sexuality, identity issues, you name it. That's kind of where sexologists come into play, whether we're working directly with clients or whether we're doing something like this where we're actually teaching. It kind of runs the gamut. And so that brings me to my next thing I want to mention is the Dr. Rachael Institute, where we actually train sexologists to do just that, to do exactly what I do. And we have students all the way from Australia, all the way, through the United States, launching successful careers. It's very exciting to help people with sex issues. I can honestly say there's never a dull moment. You get to end up doing cool things like this and meeting awesome people. So and that's drrachaelinstitute.com. So I'll put that up in a second.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so thank you. I think that was a really great way to kind of bridge the gap for those people who don't fully understand like what you do and what you offer. I've actually looked into the Dr. Rachael Institute myself. I think at some point in my life when things are a little bit slower, I am going to do that because I really seriously considered it a few months ago. And then I was like, girl,
you're so busy right now.
And I want to do it in give it my best. Yes. Okay, so what we're going to do next is to dive right into this thing. I have an audio question and I'm going to play it. All right, here we go. Let me know that you guys can hear this once I start it. Okay, here we go.
So my boyfriend and I, we have been together a couple of years and we have never experienced sexual physical intimacy because he does experience erectile dysfunction. It's something that I knew kind of sort of early on in the relationship, but I chose to stay in it because he is a really great guy. Something to note as well is that he actually has kidney failure. He's on dialysis and awaiting a kidney transplant. So he has been going in to his doctor recently, getting testosterone shots, but it doesn't seem to be quite helping. And I just wanted to know if probably the kidney failure is more so the culprit maybe for this dysfunction, and if we just need to wait it out and pray for him to get his transplant, or is there something else that we could be trying in the meantime to get things popping? It's been a long time and he's a great guy, but it is something that is definitely taking a toll on our relationship.
All right, so that's the end of the chat. The end of the voice note. So let's go ahead and get started. I guess the first thing to tackle is, how does medical issues impact erectile functioning?
Well, I think kind of, when I listened to her e-message or her voicemail, yeah, the thing that hurts, as a sexologist and as a person, for them is that she said that there's basically no intimacy at all because of this issue. And so I think the first thing we always want to do is manage expectations, so if, heaven forbid, his penis never works in that capacity again, we've got to keep in mind that we've got the mouth, the nose, the elbow, the fingers, we've got other things that we should be using.
What you doing with that elbow? Why you put that elbow up in that thing? Then you lick it off? You can't even lick your elbow. See? Why can't I reach it? What you doing with that elbow, Dr. Rach?
Well, see, this is the thing we have to remember, right? Because not everybody has all of our extremities. Not everybody has everything that's like that we all have right here. So what we do is we get really good at working with what we've got. And so I think anytime you're dealing with erectile dysfunction, the first thing you want to do is figure out what can I do in the meantime before I fix this problem to get my person satisfied and to satisfy myself, right?
Okay.
So if it's never going to work again, and let's just deal with that as a possibility, let's talk about what we can do. And so elbows, using props, you know, all those types of things are just things that happens in the throes of passion, right? Even a water bottle. Yeah.
Then I'm gonna drink the water.
Absolutely. You can
put it in and
splash
I'm
it,
drink the
rub it.
oh God. Needed it. I needed it.
But that's always step one, is managing expectations, right? So in the meantime, what they should be doing is staying intimate as possible. He should be, you know, performing oral. They should be doing a lot of other things other than.
I want to ask you something, Dr. Rachael, because I imagine this would be the case for me. When you find men that suffer from this, do they want to avoid sex altogether? Like, are they just like, man, I can't even get hard. Just forget it. I can't do nothing, you know, because I could imagine like, oh, I would love to please my wife. But if you know that, you know, you can't enter the promised land, amen. I feel like you probably would like, I feel like I would probably be more inclined to be overall discouraged and want to avoid the topic altogether.
Well, I love that you said that, because it really kind of depends on the partners, right? Because some people are very supportive, right? So if you have a partner who's supportive, they're just like, okay, well, let's try this. All right, well, you know, that didn't work out. Ha ha ha, let's try something else, you know? So, but if your partner is the type that's like, it's not working again, damn. Or is the type that's kind of like, well, I mean, is it me? You know, like, how come, you know, are you cheating on me? Like somebody who's putting a lot of pressure.
I can see that too, yeah.
Then that can be very draining. I said, but for the average gentleman who really wants to please their partner, and part of it is pleasing yourself, right? You want to see it standing tall when you look down. I mean, it does something for your psyche, you know. So
he had attention.
For the average
Wait,
gentleman,
I got a question. This might be like 5th grade sex ed.
Yeah.
Can you climax without having a full erection?
Yes, you can actually.
That's on the baby pee?
That is a great, yes.
On the soft serve?
Yes, you can.
I didn't know the soft serve ice cream could still be creamy.
Know that either.
I thought it had to be regular ice cream. I didn't know soft serve was working like that.
Well, because soft is subjective, right? I mean, when you're completely flaccid to the point where you can actually urinate, then no, you cannot. You can, I'm sorry, that's my mama. Oh, it's weird.
And you just decline your mom like that?
Well, you know. I'm like,
Dr. Rachael, you got a landline in the Your Lord and Savior 2020?
Wait a minute. Well, you know, it's Saturday.
Yeah, I was going to say, let her have a minute, Kev.
Hold on, Mom, I'm at work.
Well, yeah. I actually wanted to say this while you were checking in with your mom, is that one of the things that I don't remember who it was at this point. I almost want to say it was Emily Nagalski. We were talking about pressure. And so even when you were just talking about your spouse, if they're unaware and maybe they don't offer that support and it becomes a pressure situation where like, I need to, you know, perform, I need to do this, I need to do that, that builds a lot of anxiety. And that anxiety can also impact beyond anything medical, just the amount of pressure can impact your performance as well. Or like, child, I said it's after dark and I'm still trying to censor myself. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it could still impact a man's ability to get hard. Let me just say.
Absolutely. Anxiety, performance anxiety is real. And if you,
it's like probably having to shoot the game-winning free throw. You just like, that's
right. That's right. Especially if you've been missing. You know, if you've been missing and
missing, everybody's watching you.
That's right.
I can feel like you could have performance anxiety hours before you even have potential of sex.
Yeah, no, that's true. You can. And as a matter of fact, what typically happens a lot with performance anxiety is you start to avoid it. You know, you just get to the point, like you said, where you're just kind of like, well, I can't, my psyche can't take that right now. So I'm just going to avoid it. I'm going to either stay out late or I'm going to, you know, so it creates a whole realm of other relationship issues if it's not dealt with properly. So getting back to the medical side of things, when someone has kidney failure, what we know about the kidney is that they've got little tiny blood vessels called microvasculature. And so what we also know about the penis is that the corpus cavernosum, which is like the spongy tissue that fills up with blood when you become erect, has little tiny blood vessels, right?
Okay. Okay.
And so what it takes for engorgement to happen is that blood has to course into these little tiny vessels, and they have to stay trapped in there. And so what tends to happen when you have kidney disease or blood vessel disease of any sort is that those blood vessels are damaged now. And so they're kind of leaky, so they never really get full. So what typically can happen, though, is she said that they've been taking testosterone, which is great. I think every man should know his hormone and his testosterone levels, because after the age of 30 and 35, we start to see them decline. But I've seen low testosterone even in 20-year-olds, is that you need something called nitric oxide.
Oh, they have that in Fast and the Furious.
Okay. There you go.
That's what it makes you like, whoo, 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 I got that nitrous. I got that whoa, 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 I'm on a roller coaster. Woo.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. That's nitric oxide. Well, when you think about Viagra and stuff like that, that's what they're actually doing, is making more nitric oxide available for the blood vessels to actually kind of expand and for blood flow to flow in and for it to get trapped. What's happening when you have kidney disease or vessel disease, whether it's diabetes that's been going on for a little while or whatever, is that those blood vessels aren't as functional as they could be. And as a result of it, you end up with erectile dysfunction. But what we find with men who have kidney disease, sometimes what works is if they, instead of injecting testosterone, if they're actually injecting a dilator, a vasodilator, which is going to open those blood vessels into the penis tissue, then they can actually have more blood flow, because we're actually taking the nitric oxide and forcing it right there to the penis tissue.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
Wow. So the way you're describing it almost sounds kind of like the mechanics of like a car engine almost. You know, this part's not functioning correctly, so we're gonna make some adjustments and kind of divert the flow of blood so that it can be not necessarily functioning properly, but functioning in a different way.
Sure, because we break it down. Is it mental? Is it blood flow? Is it hormonal? Is it nerves? So, you know, when you think about it into just those 4 quadrants, then it's much easier to kind of deal with which part of it is causing issue with the erections and then to help it. So, because keep in mind, last time I saw you guys, we were talking about Kegel exercises for gentlemen. There's one muscle.
I ain't been doing my Kegels either, doctor. I'm sorry. I done forgot. And I don't have this. Let me try some now.
I figured you hadn't been doing them because Melissa didn't call me, you know. Call me and thank me. You know, I've been getting personal letters written, wives texting, like.
Right, I'm slipping. I've been trying to work out and I done forgot. I gotta include my Kegels. I'm gonna just do it at the gym, do my push-ups, swim, just sit on the floor and Kegel it out. They're gonna be like, sir, are you doing? I'm doing personal exercises for my wife. Don't worry, I'm on my 15th set. I got 100 reps each.
I love it. I love you for it. So keep in mind, we have a whole muscle that just slings around the penis like this, and that supports it. So if that muscle isn't strong enough, then of course we have, you know, a saggier erection, or not one that's, you know, doing what you want it to do. So there's so many reasons to do Kegel exercises. So for a gentleman who has chronic health issues, you got to keep in mind, it could be the medication, it could be blood flow, it could be the testosterone. He's giving himself testosterone, but if your doctor doesn't know how to manage the male hormones, then technically you might have a bunch of testosterone, but if it's not in its usable form, if it's wound up and can't be used, then it's not going to help your erections much at all, unfortunately.
See, you know, I honestly, all jokes aside for 1 second, I don't know much about erectile dysfunction. I don't know what causes it. I just know, all I know is like the Viagra, Cialis, you know, Blue Chew commercials, but I don't know how much of it's mental or health related. Do you have any like research into what it tends to be? Is it a combination of both of those things?
Well, I love that you asked that, because medicine really doesn't care why it's happening. They really just want to sell you more Viagra, right?
Got it.
So I think that's where people like myself come into play, is we want you to help you figure out, first of all, why it's happening so we can stop that. And then, of course, support the erectile function throughout the process, because while you're trying to figure it out, you need something to kind of help aid the process. But honestly, you want to figure out what's causing the problem and then fix it. Because when erectile dysfunction hits, the first thing as a physician that we think is, okay, this person might have a chronic underlying illness, so let's make sure that they don't. We consider it to be almost heart disease until duly noted that it's not, right? So we really take erectile dysfunction to be a symptom or a signal of something else that could be going on. It could be the blood vessels, it could be the prostate, so we always use that as a jump off point and say, okay, well, let's test some other things too before we just think about erectile function.
That makes sense. So I have a question, or not a question, but I think I want to dive a little bit deeper, because you said there was basically 4 quadrants to talk about, erectile, or 4 quadrants that can cause erectile dysfunction. So you kind of went through the medical side, which was the blood flow. And then you talked about nerves, hormones, and what was the last one?
Let's see. So we did blood flow, we did nerves, we did hormones and testosterone, and then your brain, your relationship status.
Your relationship. Okay. So can we talk about, let's say you go in to the doctor and they say, or recognize, they've done all the tests and they say, you do not have anything medically wrong with you. They have ruled out, diabetes, or not diabetes. Actually, somebody did ask that. Can diabetes cause it? Because you said it's kidney functioning, right?
Sure. Well, see, so what happens with diabetes, in uncontrolled diabetes, is the blood sugar kind of builds up and actually can start to damage the nerves and the blood vessels in the penis tissue.
Dang, diabetes.
What happens?
Diabetes stops you from being able to beat. You be like, man, I can't even beat these because that old diabetes.
Well, I think at the end of the day, though, we have to keep in mind that all of this can be improved. Like even when you're a diabetic or you have kidney disease or hypertension, if you're working with your doctor to figure out what the problem is, what caused the hypertension, what caused the diabetes, and help fix it, then it actually can repair the blood vessels to your penis as well. So nothing is just like a 100%, oh, I got diabetes, so now it's just not going to work. And I feel like as a culture, we feel like that. Oh, well, he got diabetes, it doesn't work. There are plenty of people with diabetes who do not have erectile dysfunction. And there are some people who have hypertension that are having erectile dysfunction. So I don't want the audience to feel like just because you have high blood pressure or just because you have diabetes, that now all of a sudden for the rest of your life, it's not going to work anymore, because it's not true.
So what is the I don't know how to quite put this, but what is it people come see you? What's the recovery rate? Because it seems like, I don't know, for me, it was all doom and gloom, but talking to you now, it seems there's more hopefulness about it than previously thought.
Oh, definitely. There's so many different solutions. I mean, all the way up into, because you would be surprised that we can say that men who sit for a living, like sit in front of a computer for 6 to 8 hours a day, are 56% more likely to have erectile dysfunction, right? And it makes sense. You're cutting off.
I knew it.
To where, there you go, right? It's that simple. Right. So if I could get gentlemen doing this and moving around more, that is a big part of the problem. Yeah.
You ain't said nothing but a word. I ain't even know. I ain't
do some squats too. Do some squats. Get the blood flowing down there. There we go. So it's
ain't nobody told me, Dr. Rachael. I was trying to be still for the episode. I ain't know I was messing up the peen.
Yes. Dude. Actually, because if you think about it, the blood vessels, as they travel to that area, and it's the same with women. You know how you sit for a little while, you've been sitting for 6 hours, you're like, my butt is numb. Right?
Yes.
Same thing. It'll cut off all of our blood flow. So
you know what I actually really like about this conversation is that you are explaining it in a way where it's less shameful. It's so easy to attach, again, shame and embarrassment, and like, you know, it's demeaning to your ego because you can't get an erection. And the way you've just explained it, it's just simply a matter of blood flow from one area to the penis, and it's not working properly. So let's address this. It has nothing to do, like, you can almost get out of your head a little bit when you address it and explain it that way.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And that's what I want people to do, is to get out of your head. It's not that big of a deal. We can work with it. We can fix it. First thing is moving around more, getting more exercise. We know one of the quickest ways to increase testosterone is to do weight training and cardiovascular exercise. And what we need to have an erection is testosterone and nitric oxide mixing together. So testosterone is a big part of that. So I always tell people, you know, if you're having erectile dysfunction, 2 things we need to check right away. We need to check your blood pressure, we need to check your prostate, and we need to check your hormone levels. We need to check your free testosterone, your binding globulin, you know, your estradiol, because sometimes with men, and you start to see it when you start to get man boobs and can't get your, you know, you're in the gym and they won't go away.
Yeah.
Then technically too, sometimes we have to check and make sure the estrogen.
I done had these for 20 years, doctor. What are
you don't have man boobs.
Cannot.
What are you saying? I've been had these. I need my third love.
I literally can't stand you right now.
Well, I didn't even hear what you said, Dr. Rachel. I heard man boobs and I knew I was out of there. Am I at risk?
Well, here's the thing. If you start to see them increasing in size as a gentleman, and start to feel like, you know, I'm doing all this chest work, but the muscles aren't developing, then, you know, we have to think, how's the estrogen levels? And estrogen's technically something we want to see higher in women and not in men. So we check the estrogen levels, then we check the prolactin levels too, just to make sure that that isn't going to be you know, the issue. So you got to do that. You got to have your doctor check your prostate if you're having issues too, because if your prostate is swollen, that will decrease your erectile function. And then one of the first things that you should do if you start to feel like you're premature ejaculating, or your erections aren't lasting like they used to, or you're not getting as hard as you used to do, you know, the first exercise you always want to do are those Kegel exercises, clamping down, you know, trying to make that pelvic floor as strong as possible, because, you know, you've got these muscles down there that have to support this thing, especially if it's really long. You know, if it's really long, you've got to have strong muscles to support it. So if it's, but, you know, so if you think about it, people who have longer erections and penises actually have more erectile dysfunction because their blood flow.
You hear the whole statement? You hear the whole
I don't want to really say nothing about it. You feel me? But I'm 6'1". You know what I'm saying? That's why I got to do my key. You know, got to be on the keto, then it got to be on the Kegel. You understand me? It works hand in hand, or peeing in balls. You understand me?
I literally hate you right now.
Well, but it's basic gravity. You know, what comes up must come down. And if it's longer or bigger, it's got more, you got to have more power behind it to keep it strong. So yeah, exercises are very
okay. That was great. I actually learned quite a bit here. What I'm going to do is we've been getting a few questions streaming in. Thank you to Catherine, who is moderating and filtering in all of your questions and sending them over to us. Unless you had something else to say, I will go through some of these questions. I know, I'm sorry, Dr. Rachel.
we can totally
so, okay. First question. I'm just going to start at the beginning. How do you get your man to go to the doctor in the first place?
I think this is a great question. And honestly, you know, men actually make better patients than women. You know, I have both. And guys, once they get to the doctor, they do a really much better job of actually following what it is that we tell them to do. So, you know, honestly, if you talk to your guy and just kind of tell him, you know what, I love you, you know, and we love you. We got a family here, or you've got this situation. We depend on you. So I just need you to go get checked out and make sure everything's okay, because we don't need any scares. And I think when you talk
like
to
that.
people,
As a man, I was just thinking how self-conscious I would be if I was struggling with this. And the way you just phrased that, we need you caters to the patriarchal provider in me, and somehow just stroke my ego. Therefore, I can get better so you can stroke my shaft.
that's right.
That way of phrasing it is like, I could see myself being like, okay, you know what? I can see that. I want to be there for you guys. You know what I mean? I feel like that would work a lot for me, at least.
Yeah,
and I think the other notion that it could be associated with another underlying chronic illness that's really serious, actually is a connection most people would make. I think most people, they would assume that this is something that you really should, potentially be embarrassed about, or it is a mark on your manhood. I don't want to be with no man that can't, perform and get it up and all that kind of stuff, not realizing that maybe this is, again, an indication of something deeper and more serious, instead of just like, he's a broken man.
Yes, definitely. And I love that both of you said there. Absolutely. And I think too, we can use, and so it's tough, right? Because every now and then you have a girlfriend or someone who is dating a guy who's obviously not attracted to her. And because of it, his penis never works. So I think the difficult piece becomes trying to differentiate between somebody who's just kind of not really into you versus, there being an issue there. And I think that's the difficult piece. And I always tell ladies, you have to pay attention to who it is that you're dealing with. And you find more cues outside of the bedroom than you do inside of it,
Your statement actually brought another question to my mind. What do you say to those women who maybe that, sexual intimacy is something that's really important to them, and they are trying to hold on to God's unchanging hand, but maybe this man is hard-headed, not going to the doctor, or
hard-headed, soft penis.
Yes. Or, things just aren't responding to his body in such a way that it's, working, like the medication's not working, the pills aren't working, and she's struggling because sex is something that's important to her. Like, what do you say to that woman? What are things that they can do outside of P and V?
P and G. Listen, you better stop being daylight. You gotta be after dark.
Oh, sorry.
Got it.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a super valid question, and I probably get that question from a listener or viewer of mine probably once a week. I like this guy, he's great, he's a great provider, but the sex is terrible, or he has a really small penis, or so on and so forth. What should I do? And I think that there's two things here, right? You'll talk to some women who are like, wow, one of the best sexual experiences I ever had was a guy who had a small penis, right? So I think sometimes, men who have smaller penises and have to compensate and maybe can't last as long, they have to get their swag up in other ways.
Absolutely.
They can't be super nice. They can't be, texting right back all the time. Like they have to get some mystery and some chemistry out there in other ways, right? They gotta be great at shopping, or great providers. You've got to figure out how to compensate.
Better know how to eat that cat. You better tame it to where it's like just meow, meow.
That's right. And then don't call it back the next day.
You understand me?
That's right.
You better be triple double. If you can't score 20 points, you better have 10 rebounds, 10 steals, 10 assists, 10 blocks. Affect the game in a different way. Dominate.
That's right. Because if he's timid and it's not working down there, then it's never really going to work out. But if he recognizes the shortcoming a little bit and compensates in other ways, with his mouth, with props, with
his
excitements, great trips.
With the elbow.
The elbow, that's right. The kneecap, there's all types of things.
Yeah, girl. You don't even know. You get that elbow on that mons pubis, that mons likes a little action on that mons. You right on the top of that mons. What do you think about that? Be on top of that clitoral hood. Just rub it out so.
I'm so angry that you know the actual like clinical medical.
Hey, that much. See, most men just want to go ram in the bush, ram in the bush, ram in the bush, ram in the bush. There's a whole area that needs to be attended to. Sometimes the outer wall of the city, amen. You always trying to bust in the city. Sometimes you got to go around the outer wall. What's up with them outers? What had them outers?
They're good fortune to be more creative, is what.
You can't just do it. Same thing. You got to switch up the speeds. There's a lot of different speeds. You got to go visit another area. You've been in town all day. You've been downtown all day. Go down to the west side. Go to the hood for a little bit. Go to the rich part of town. You can't just be downtown all day. Go see what them Nips doing. What y'all doing, Nips? What, y'all ain't been bothering in a while? Hey, Nips.
No, but you're right on point with it. You're right on point. You gotta switch it up. And I find that men that don't last as long, if they would spend more time, and I mean this is the easiest way to fix that, more time on foreplay, then you don't really have to even last that long because she's about to bust anyway.
Guys, let me tell you what I learned. If she already came, she don't care nothing about what you doing. Just hurry up. Whatever you, whew. Man, she don't care if her penis is small if she's finished. Now, if she didn't get none, now she's asking questions. What you doing down there? How long you gonna be? What you do at work yesterday anyway? I thought you was gonna be out of town. She don't have no energy left. Ain't nothing to talk about. You can have little things. Instead of a bottle of water, you could just have you a little cap. This you all day. Always got a little cap. She ain't even gonna care. If you're dying of thirst, this is enough water. That's enough.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask the next question.
Yeah.
I have kidney stones. Is that part of the problem why I might have ED right now?
Well, I mean, if you have kidney stones, what we know about kidney stones is that you have a lot of inflammation and free radicals floating around in your body. So the kidney stones may just be one part of what else is happening, but there's no real data that shows that kidney stones and erectile dysfunction go hand in hand. But we do know that usually with kidney stones, you've got an extra amount of calcium floating around in your body, and that could certainly be interfering with blood flow. So yeah, absolutely. And I think, if you follow me on YouTube, you'll know I talk a lot about some of the herbal remedies, that we can use instead of Viagra and things like that. And we have different herbal remedies that can actually help with blood flow, that can help with testosterone, that can help with anxiety. So there's lots of different ways that this can go, but I always think you want to know the why behind it, because there might be an underlying issue that really needs to be addressed. So I love that question. And I also see this one in here about cyclists. Her husband cycles a lot and he can't find a seat that helps. He says his penis gets numb after he rides. That's absolutely because it's cutting off blood flow to the area. And, I remind gentlemen all the time that, one of the best forms of birth control for men is to really wear very tight underwear and just to keep the testicles, really close to you. Because what happens is it heats it up. The testicles swing and hang because they're supposed to kind of get air and be cooled down. But if they're stuck against your body all day long, you're warming it up, you're warming the sperm up, and your sperm isn't going to be as active. So we have more infertility with men in these recent years than we've ever really had. And it's because of blood flow. It's because of our cell phones. You keep your cell phone down here. Your boss comes in, you're hiding it under the table, right on the jewels, right in the area. So, you got to be very mindful about what you're exposing yourself to. Absolutely. So
wait, hold on. Putting your cell phone near your balls and that vibrating those radioactive waves can affect your sperm count?
Yeah, so it's not even the vibrating, but actually, so say for instance,
sometimes, Dr. Rachael, I ain't gonna hold you. Sometimes you forget it's down there, and somebody texts you, be like, "Oh, I forgot. I kind of like that. I didn't even know. That ain't even usually my thing. I ain't know. Sometimes I be on the road, Dr. Rachael. You got to get creative, hey man.
I can't.
I love that. But if you're going to do that, if you want your phone to vibrate and help you out, just turn off the tower part of it. Because what's happening is as your cell phone is trying to connect with the towers, it's constantly letting off all these electromagnetic fields. And the issue becomes like, say you're in an area that has poor reception, right? So that phone is working harder and harder trying to connect more electromagnetic fields, and that type of stuff can actually damage sperm. So you've got to be very mindful about the environments that we put our body into, the stuff we eat.
You ain't said nothing but a word, Dr. Rachel. I'm mad I didn't know nothing about this earlier.
Stupid.
They should put signs up about it, right?
Man, you messed up your balls. Wait, for real, let's ask a question though. So boxer briefs, boxers, what should we be wearing?
Well, I mean, I think it does depend on preference. I mean, and for you, you guys have a nice group of boys, and you probably don't want to have any more right now, or
I don't.
Okay, looks like ever.
Ever.
So for you, you can keep them right up there. You know, like you can wear tighties, you can wear bikinis. You know, it's all. But for a guy who's just starting out,
count, or is this erection?
This is sperm count. This is for fertility.
Oh, okay. That's not necessarily. So let me ask you this: when you're talking about that, is when you come as a man. Is there less sperm in the ejaculate, or is there less ejaculate overall?
There's going to be less quality sperm in the ejaculate,
but not necessarily less ejaculate.
Yes, because when we're looking at ejaculate, only a small part of it is sperm. The rest of it is like glycosaminoglycans, fructose, zinc, manganese, you know, so it's got all of these other little chemicals, and sperm is just a small part of it. So the rest of it is just, you know, the stuff that makes it the kind of milky white and mucusy, but the tiniest part of it is a sperm. See you, Melissa.
What are you drinking, girl?
The cat was on.
Oh, dang.
Splooge is not her favorite topic.
Man, that girl, I ain't even had none. She is out here tonight. I'm gonna put the kids go to bed. It's 6:45. What'd I say? Go in your room, headphones on, earmuffs.
Dr. Rachael, I think that one of the most important things that you have kind of communicated, and I want to make sure that like people are hearing what you're saying, is like funneling down and getting to the root of why you have ED, instead of simply trying to find Viagra to like make it perform. Because it's the same thing. I always think about this in terms of women. And when we have, you know, trouble getting in the mood, or, you know, whatever the case may be, a lot of times we have to address those things that are happening, like you said, outside of the bedroom. What's going on in our mind? Emily said, even down to like beyond physiology, even down to what we think, believe, or imagine, and how that impacts. And I feel like some of that same, again, outside of like the medical piece of it, I think for men, it could be some of that think, believe, or imagine, that pressure that you've internalized, maybe some, you know, religious information messaging that you've received, or the state of the relationship between you and your spouse, or maybe you've struggled off and on with ED because of pressures, and now you feel this anxiety to perform. Like all of those things are going to impact what's happening in this moment, and you have to address those first.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll say, you know what I find a lot, particularly Catholic males, you know, they have a lot of guilt around sex, you know, and so as a result of it, they have a lot of guilt around it before they get married. And then when they do get married, they have a lot of guilt around seeing their wives kind of as sexual beings.
Really?
Yeah. That's one culture.
Why is that so?
Well, because they sit, you know how you go to Sunday school, and some Sunday schools you sit in the back and you draw pictures and you hang out and you laugh. Well, other Sunday schools, and particularly Catholic, when they're going through confirmation and all of that, is that they actually, you know, they sometimes in the church, they preach it. They're like, it's wrong, it's bad, you do not do it. The only reason you would do it is if you're procreating, trying to have a baby.
I have heard that.
You know, and how many of these babies can you really have, you know, if you want to be an active sexual person? So I find that a lot of gentlemen, and just like ladies, will carry this baggage all through their lives and really struggle with trying to balance what God expects them to and what's a sin and what they were told over and over again as children, and then as adults be very happy and confident with their sexuality, it really becomes a problem. And that in and of itself will interfere with your erection.
I 100% believe that. Yeah. I believe it has to do with the same line of thinking of having a good girl mentality. So if you've grown up your whole life associating your virginity with being close to godliness, it's hard to disassociate that even after you've said I do and you have a ring on your finger, and now you're in this space where God ordained sex. You're just like, no, this is still bad. This is still sinful.
Because he only ordained it for one reason, right?
Procreation.
So, yes.
Listen, I don't, you know, it's crazy. So I didn't realize that I've heard that about Catholic people, but I didn't realize that. It's so interesting because you only really generally only know a lot about your own religion. And what's interesting in the Black church, in my experience, the women, they accept a lot of this shame, but men do not. You know, it's not, there's no, like, even if this guy got this girl pregnant in this church, the girl is seen as bad and wrong.
That's right. Even if the pastor gets the girl pregnant in church.
If the pastor gets the girl, it's always the woman who is the wrong party in that.
She wears the scarlet letter.
He wears the scarlet letter. And that letter is H. And that's really unfortunate, but H-O-E.
Yes.
Yeah. Because even when man has sex with 100 people, he's not a hoe, he's the man. Woman has sex with 10 men, she's a hoe. It's not even the same ratio of men that makes it. So it's interesting that that's something that happens in other religions, and there's guilt associated with that. And that, man, let me tell you, that is hard to shake. Because a lot of times, especially if you're really churchy, if you're really religious, and that's really ingrained in you, me and Melissa always use this term, that's part of your core programming. And it's hard to tell someone their core programming is wrong. Like, there's so much about homophobia and all that's ingrained into us as men, Black men especially, that, you know, that's gay. If your girl does that during sex, that's gay. Even if you like it, you can't even, the mind part of you cannot allow yourself to enjoy it because you feel like it's wrong. And that's maybe just
believe or imagine.
Think, believe, or imagine. Now, that's just one part of sex. Imagine if it's sex overall. I could see your mind just being like, oh man, just forget it.
Absolutely. And then I think too, you know, when we take religion one step further and the difference between the things, I mean, I think the children who grow up Catholic is like, preserve your virginity until you're married, preserve it. So, you know, they have a lot more anal sex as young adults, you know, like that's kind of the norm because they feel like that's not real sex. And so then when we get married, we can actually have real sex, but that's not the thing. And so like if you think about
coochie virgin, but they're not a butt virgin.
Well, exactly. So you have to have these conversations with your kids about what sex really
because
is.
they're just trying to not get pregnant.
That's right. Exactly. They're trying not to get pregnant. They're trying not to sin. They're trying not to, you know, there's all these things they're trying not to do, and anal becomes the thing that they gravitate to besides oral, you know, when they're kids like that.
But wait, do they develop, are they more likely to be into that as a result?
Well, I think, you know, the most public case and, you know, rest in peace, Kobe, you know, I think that was tough for us all week. You know, every person has been tough. But remember when they accused him of rape, the thing was she agreed to have sex with him, but she says she didn't agree to have anal, and he did anal. But Kobe is Catholic. So him doing that, he probably felt like he wasn't really cheating on his wife if he did anal, because as teenagers, you do anal because it's not really sinning. So, you know, like the whole anal culture. So this is one thing I always talk about in the Dr. Rachael Institute, is that cultural experiences define how you see sex, what you're comfortable with, what you're confident with, and what you do want to do and what you don't want to do. And there's not much that we can do to kind of peel back that and help you abandon it. You know, there's some things we can do to help you work through it. But if that's how you've felt and grown up for years and years and years, that's a lot of stuff to unpack. That's going to take years of therapy and undoing. And
do you think people can even...
Good.
So, okay, so take me for example. I'm just going to use myself.
Yeah, when you're done, we're going to ask a few questions.
Okay. Take me for an example. anal is always just seen as wrong. You can do that. But it's an exit only.
Sure.
It's, you know, like, and I'm 36. I can't see myself like, I don't know. I don't think you can undo those wires, but are you saying it's possible for people to change their mind about that stuff? Like regular therapy, sex therapy, what kind of therapy?
Sure. I think if you think that anal sex is disgusting, I think we have to sit and figure out, well, why? You know, like, and then, you know, if you have a phobia against boo-boo, like if you were a kid and you know, you know, your mama beat you because you had boo-boo all in your drawers and you feel like boo-boo, you know, like that's a whole nother thing, right? Because you have a phobia against boo-boo, and so you've connected boo-boo with the anus and blah, blah, blah. But if it's just one of those things that, you know, I've never thought of that in my we just don't do that. It just sounds nasty. Now, that's probably something more that a coach can actually kind of coach you through. You know, but if you have, you know, because we all have hard lines, like, it's not happening. I'm not doing that. If it's one of those things, it's very difficult to get you from having a hard line to like enjoying it.
I actually get that.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to answer some questions. One question: can masturbation cause erectile dysfunction?
I get this question a lot. So no, masturbation is not going to cause erectile dysfunction. You know, I think what people are thinking is that you've just kind of worn it out and now it doesn't work, you know. But I think what it can do is desensitize you to certain things, right? So if you're used to your hand all the time, then someone's vagina isn't going to feel quite as good. If you're doing it so much, then you're not going to be as sensitive or responsive when somebody touches you. So it can change your experience with sex, but it's not going to necessarily give you erectile dysfunction. That's a great question.
So how much is too much? What is that? How much is
I literally do not answer this question.
What if you're usually just really soft with yourself, very light touches? For people, Dr. Rachael, I mean, it's not like people are on tour and lonely in hotels 3 or 4 nights out of the week. Just anybody could be this way.
Yes. Well, I always say if it's if it's interfering with your life, if you're late to work, if you're late for your partners, if it's taking to the point where you're engaged in risky behavior too because of it, like okay, you're about to be late, but you would rather hop out to the car and do it real quick. You know, those are the types of things where we're saying, okay, now it's becoming a little excessive. And we probably need to talk about ways that we can slow it down and maybe even stop for a little while. It's kind of like fasting from sugar. You know, you fast for a little bit and then you kind of work it back in.
Okay. So here's a question. I know I'm jumping the gun, right? Okay. Somebody said this: why masturbate in a committed relationship?
Oh, there's so many benefits to masturbation.
Oh, tell us.
First off, for ladies, studies show that women have higher sex drives when they actually masturbate. And if you think about it, it's like this, you know, you as a lady, you're busy, you're working, you're going to the grocery store, you're picking the kids up, blah, 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 doing what you do. Last thing you're really thinking about is your clitoris, right? But if you have a friendly reminder throughout the day from the night before, like because, you know, you played with it, so it's a little sensitive. Or you play with it so it's dripping a little bit. So it's a little reminder that it's there. So it just kind of makes you feel more sexual. It makes you feel more like, I would love to do that again. So actually playing with yourself kind of keeps it from falling asleep. It kind of keeps it from going into a coma.
Wake up. Hey, get up. Hey, get up. Get up. What are you? Wake up.
And actually, one of the exercises we do for premature ejaculation is, you know, actually entails you masturbating to a certain point where you can actually learn how to control it, then masturbating a little more, learning how to control it.
Is that called edging?
Then subside and then going back.
Oh, we just learned that.
Pardon me?
Is that edging?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, so if you ever really want to become that person who lasts for hours and can, you know, do semen retention and all these great things, you know, you do have to practice.
Semen retention lasting for hours, that's just a lot.
That is a lot. And I'm sure Melissa would agree that she does not want you to do all of that.
I do not.
I can see her looking down like.
People Let me find another question, and then people are going to want me to ask questions from my email. I really didn't get that many, and so I kind of lumped them together. But if you have something specific that you want to ask, and maybe you're not comfortable sharing it in the YouTube chat, feel free to email me at info@thelovehour. As a matter of fact, I'll rename myself to Kev. Rename yourself to the Patreon so people actually do a commercial, Kev.
This is on the Patreon, kevonstage.com. Patreon, this will continue to be only for the Patreon after today's episode. I think you said twice a month, Melissa?
Yes.
Patreon.com/KevOnStage Studios, or just go to KevOnStage.com. You'll also get new shows that are only exclusive to Patreon in case you missed it. Too Hot for TV, Slept On with Doughboy, The Gonzi Tape, Spoiler Alert with me and Doughboy, and whatever new shows we have. And everything that you already see on YouTube will stay the same, but all the new shows that we get when we move into our new office this week will be on Patreon only like this. For as little as $5, you get all this and more.
Okay, thank you. So I just renamed myself to hello@thelovehour.com. If you have questions and you don't feel like we've covered them in this session thus far, feel free to shoot me an email, hello@thelovehour. I have my phone here. I will be looking at them. I want to ask this question because it comes up quite a bit, actually, and that's about diet. Do you think that there are things we are consuming that can affect, and maybe the question is not to the extent that it contributes to hypertension, because that seems like a very obvious connection, and maybe that's what we're asking. Maybe we don't realize that that's what's happening. So did I ask my question correctly? Do you understand what I'm saying? The difference in what I'm saying? Okay.
Let me tell you something.
Okay.
It is all.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say 70% of it is the food that we're eating. I mean, I would go ahead and give it 70%, and I think maybe the other 30% is the environment. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the real reason why we have so much diabetes and hypertension and cancer and sickness. I mean, you know, if you go to every household on the block, right? Everybody's got Cheerios in their compartment, right? But when we go, a study just showed that a bowl of Cheerios has more Roundup in it than one of these toxic. And Roundup is a pesticide. Than one of these toxic strawberries. So I really do think that so much of the situation that we're in right now, whether it's erectile dysfunction, whether it's fertility issues, whether it's hypertension, diabetes, it really does all come back to the food and what we're putting in our bodies. But keep in mind, we're putting stuff on our bodies that's interfering, you know, the lotions and the soaps. We're eating stuff that's interfering, and then we're breathing stuff. So I always say, try to control the stuff that you can. And the rest, you know, you can't worry about it. But know your family history, your genetics, your DNA. What types of things do people in your family tend to have? Talk to your doctors about it. Try to figure out ways that you can strategize your lifestyle so that that's not something that you have to deal with. But keep in mind, erectile dysfunction is oftentimes a signal that something else is going on.
I love that. That was a great answer. So I have one question. I'm not going to bash one of our podcast sponsors because we've used them and we thought they were great, but you'll get the point regardless. Is performance enhancing pills, okay, follow me, my cure, but also how can I find out what is wrong, okay, when I don't have insurance? Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the cool thing.
Let
me show you. I think the first thing you want to do is get tested. So here you go. If you go
Dr.
to
Rachael knows how to use this better than we do.
Man.
Hello.
So I'm gonna give you two ways to do this. You know, you can email me at efunctionnow@gmail.com,
Okay.
or there's also, I've partnered up with a home testing kit where you can actually test your testosterone and your hormones.
That's awesome.
And if you use my checkout code, you get 20% off. So you want to go to trylgc.com. That's trylgc.com/Dr. Rach, DRRACH. I think the cool thing about it is you can get it. And I tell everyone all the time, you don't have to put your real name on these test kits. But the cool thing is it's the same labs that we as physicians use. And there's a lab that will test you. You can order it. I think it's about $160. You can get your testosterone checked, your free testosterone, your estrogen, like your stress hormones. And I think that when it really boils down to it, that's where you want to start. Because signs of testosterone deficiency are everything from weight gain you weren't trying to gain, you can't lose weight, you can't build muscle, you've been tired, you've been irritable, you've been kind of hot, your erections aren't doing what they need to do. So I think the first place to start is there. Now, if you email me at efunctionnow@gmail.com and put in there herbal remedies, I have a nice little cheat sheet of like my top 13 herbal things. And, they're not brand specific, but the types of herbs for each issue, but I still want to encourage everybody, make sure it's not blood flow, make sure, really have these conversations with your doctor, because we don't want to just put a Band-Aid on a bigger situation.
Right.
We want to fix the underlying issue so you don't have to rely on any herbs or anything like that. So, and keep in mind that herbs have side effects too. The cheat sheet actually puts potential side effects and interactions and things like that, because I think that stuff is
and
really
so I think
important.
the answer to your question essentially is those performance enhancing pills are a Band-Aid. You should really cough up the money and go see a doctor or do one of these tests that Dr. Rachael was mentioning to make sure that this isn't an indication of something more serious.
And then take the test with you to the doctor and
then
show them, because you want to be a partner with your doctor, right?
Yes.
You only get 10 minutes with them. So you want to come armed and be like, Doc, look, these are my labs right here. What do we need to do next? Like, these are my symptoms. I'm going to tell you real quick, because I know you're going to rush out of here, so that you can help me deal with this. And I think that's important. Performance enhancing pills and herbs and things like that, they have a place, because a lot of them really come from good science, because that's what Viagra did, right? They mimicked one of these performance enhancing natural products, and they patented it, and it works fairly well for some people. As a matter of fact, Yohimbe works very similarly to Viagra. We were using Yohimbe before Viagra even existed. So keep in mind that this stuff really kind of does work, but they do have side effects. They can exacerbate an existing medical condition or make a medical condition worse, and that you should only use them if your doctor says it's okay to use.
Makes so much sense. And that's why it's important to go see your doctor. Great. That was a great answer. Okay, next question. We haven't covered delayed ejaculation. So the question is, why might a man be able to get aroused but have trouble ejaculating?
Ooh, I love this question.
I do too, because it differentiates arousal and ejaculation. And I don't think I did that before this question.
Yes. So if you think about it, and I know you like the mental aspect of things, and I love that. But so imagine a guy who has 4 kids and really doesn't want to have any more, right? Or imagine a guy who's has a new partner and he doesn't want to get her pregnant. Or imagine a guy who is having sex with someone and he really kind of doesn't like her all that much or him all that much, but is there, right? Those are all situations where mentally you just don't want to ejaculate. And so even if you're trying to, you might not be able to because you have a mental block against it. So one of them is, of course, higher order thinking and anxiety will keep you from it. Another one is that, sometimes you just haven't had enough friction to the point where it's time for you to ejaculate. And then another one, of course, is medicine. Delayed ejaculation and certain medications go hand in hand. Even sometimes we see it in people who are just taking basic allergy medication, Claritin and some of the over-the-counter stuff. They'll get to the point where they can get very aroused, but just can't finish the situation. So it can be a number of different reasons why it's happening. And it's just like one thing you'll always see about me, whether we're talking about hypertension, diabetes, or erectile dysfunction, is we always want to figure out, is this an ongoing issue? Is this something new? And to get to the bottom of the why, is it happening so that we're not ignoring something else that could be going on, like nerve damage or something like that. Yes.
I just had like a aha moment here, because I keep coming back to this Think, Believe, or Imagine that we talked about with Emily Nagoski. But of course, her book, Come As You Are, which is phenomenal, deals specifically with women and sexuality. And the connection that I'm making is that this affects men as well. Their body parts are different. So we're talking about, a penis and erection and that kind of thing. But the same thing, whatever's going on up here is going to affect these organs. And I just never had thought about it for men as well. For some reason, I associated the physical stand at attention with immediate arousal, or not, no, that is arousal, with like immediate, I can like move forward and get it on, and but or no, that's desire and arousal. Child, I just got mixed up. But you understand the point that I'm making. I associated the man standing at arms with like, we're ready to fire, ready, aim, fire. And what you're kind of explaining is that's not the case. And it's the same thing that can be for women. It really is the desire and arousal, and then finishing for men that can, those are three different buckets, and they don't always have to just stream together.
Absolutely. And if you really, once you really start to look at the anatomy of what's happening when they're actually finishing, there's so much that goes into it. The pelvic floor has to contract, the prostate has to contract, like the seminal vesicles have to contract. So there's all of this stuff that has to coordinate together to actually explode. And then it keeps contracting afterwards. That's a lot.
That's why afterwards, the women be trying to touch you. You be like, leave me. I'm very much sensitive, please. Don't touch me.
No, definitely. So I'm glad you said that, because I think women get into the habit of thinking that men are just sex machines, right? They're not affected by stress. They're not affected by anxiety. They're not affected by sadness. But they are. And so you're doing your gentleman a disservice if you think of it like, it's me. What did I do? Oh, what did I do? Oh, you're not attracted to me. Oh, you didn't like that outfit I wore last night. You didn't like my bra and panties. You didn't say anything about it. Like, I think, men deserve a break, right? Because they really are people. They're very sensitive, and they get a bad rap that they're just all about sex. And when men cheat too, oftentimes it's for similar reasons that ladies do, right? They're not getting the attention. Nobody listened to me. You were spending a lot of time, talking to the kids and none to me, like they're very sensitive. So I think once we stop thinking of men as like, these beasts that just are all about sex, and actually think of them as like, really kind of sensitive beings, then I think the process becomes smoother without necessarily having to baby them. The babying them and thinking of them as sensitive people are two kind of different things.
Got it. That's great. I'm going to ask sorry, you guys, I got like a little too many questions in my inbox. So I'm going to answer one or two that Kat has in our chat, and then we will close out. Okay. So this says, my guy has testicular torsion. I don't know how to say that. Okay. Torsion. He ejaculates prematurely, but his recovery bounce back time is quick. What things can be done so he can last longer?
Oh, that's great. So honestly, the PC flex exercises, I mean, that's going to make a huge difference with him. And that's just basically they're good old fashioned Kegels. He bears down and he holds it, and then he releases, and he bears down and he holds it. And if he bears down and holds it for 3 counts, as long as he can, until he exhausts himself twice a day for the next 2 weeks, what you'll find with premature ejaculation is that's one of the easier things to kind of help get through, because there's a whole bunch of exercises that we can do. And if you email me efunctionnow@gmail.com, you can get on my email list, because I'm actually doing a guide specifically for premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction. So you can get updates on when it's available and get more tips and information, because the premature ejaculation is probably my number one question that I get from gentlemen about how they can last longer. Pardon me, what'd you say?
How long is considered premature?
So I'm so glad you asked that, because it is all subjective. It all depends on him. If he thinks it's premature and his partner thinks it's premature, then it's premature. We want gentlemen to be able to last as long as they would like, right? You want to be in there and be like, okay, I think my partner's straight. I think I'm straight. I think I'm ready. And ideally, that's the situation. And then you can go ahead and have
Oh,
your
I
moment.
see.
Yes. So premature ejaculation basically means ejaculating before you were ready to.
Okay, so last question. I think this might be a good question to end on. What are the next steps if you've tried all treatments? What are the next steps if you try? Well, basically, you've tried it all. You've done all you can.
Yes.
What
You've done
do
everything.
you do
Right.
when you give in your all and your penis just will not stand?
Exactly.
You're just soft and there's
So
nothing left to do. You're just soft.
wait, Kev. So the
That's
man
great.
is singing
I
that,
love
and the
it.
woman
I
is
love
singing it. Truth is, I'm tired.
So
Options are few.
It's true.
No, but seriously, okay. What do you recommend?
Okay, so this is great. So you've gone through, you've tried your hormones, you've tried nitric oxide, you've tried all the different things, you've tried injections. You're still not getting hard there. So there's a couple other options when you hit the dead end. One is, of course, the penis pump, where we actually put it on and it pumps it up,
Hold up.
suction.
I thought that was fake.
I did too.
It's great. It uses suction to kind of draw blood into the penis, right? And once it gets in there, you put your cock ring on and lock it in there, kind of like a little bit.
Lock it up. You put your penis in a headlock.
Yeah, basically. And it traps the blood in there. And then, you don't have like a super hard, tall erection. It's more of like an erection that's like this. But then it actually gives you some stiffness and rigidity so that you can penetrate.
So you manufacture that erection.
Pardon me?
You manufacture that erection.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The other thing that you can do, yeah, it works. Yeah. And it really does work very easily and they get very large and full, So another part to that is
I don't know where he's going. I'm so nervous.
I'm worried. Don't worry. The other piece to that is if the pump, you've tried the pump, the pump will work. But the other piece to that too is if it absolutely cannot get hard, there's something we call stuffing, right? Which is basically where you stuff your non-erect penis. What is that?
This is a snug tugger. We got this from that couple, Liz. Remember that box?
Yes. The snug tugger. So this is a cock ring, right?
This is. I didn't know.
There you go.
That's why it's still in the package. I never used. I ain't even know it.
It constricts and keeps the blood locked in, right? So you wait to put that on till you're 100% erect, as hard as you can get, and then you put that on there. So it's great. Then the other option is surgery. There are implants for penises now, and they're actually doing really great jobs with it, really great surgery. They put like an expandable rod. Rod sounds hard. It's not really hard. Into the penis, and basically you have a pump that you kind of put underneath the skin. What is that?
Is that how you put it on?
Okay, this one looks like it's got a double head to it. So the whole idea is that when you're putting a cock ring on, you're going around the front of the penis, around the base of the testicles.
Okay, so that goes on the base.
Yes, you got to go around the base.
It would probably do better with a full bottle of water.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, this just looks painful.
Because now that's exactly right though. It's supposed to be a tourniquet basically. So
lock it up.
So back to implants, right? So with the implants, they put a little pump underneath your skin so that when you're ready to get erect, you hit the button and it actually, pumps up. So there's plenty.
Hold on, is that like electronic?
Kind of, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know. I honestly, Dr. Rachael, I thought those things were just mythical.
Yeah, no, it's great. Their technology has really gotten fancy for us.
Wow, that's crazy. You're like Inspector Gadget with the ping. Go, Gadget.
I actually think that is probably, this was super informative, but I think for most people, while there is a lot of like research research on men and sexuality. I feel like people probably have a lot of embarrassment around this topic specifically. And so you've probably encouraged somebody's heart in the comments, letting them know that this is something that you can recover from. Something that you
Listen,
can,
I'm going to tell you,
or reverse.
Absolutely. Again, and this isn't to like brag. This isn't something I've struggled with, but I did have a fear of it because I'm like, man, that would like literally be the worst thing ever. And I had so much like preemptive fear about it. And now talking to you, it seems like you treat this as if, like you have a broken arm. We know, okay, you get this, you have surgery, you put it in a cast, and after 6-8 weeks, and you do, you know what I mean? Like everything else seems to have some sort of process to recovery. But for this, it was just like take medicine, and if medicine doesn't work, then you're out of luck. But you have literally given us so many different options for treatment that it doesn't seem so daunting anymore. It seems like if this were to happen to me or to somebody else, that there's, light at the end of the tunnel.
No, that's great. That's great. And that's the goal here. I want everyone to know that there's always options. There's so many different ways to look at it. If you want my list of the top herbs, and I see some people ask questions about maca root and ashwagandha, they're great for libido, actually. Those and ashwagandha is really good for just people who are just kind of stressed out in general, because what we know about stress increases inflammation and it makes everything go awry. So ashwagandha, you'll find it in a lot of the herbal supplements, but you'll also find it for people who are just kind of supplementing their health. So those are great questions. Email me at efunctionnow@gmail.com if you want my herbal cheat sheet. And if you want to get tested at home for your test kit, test all your hormone panel so that you can bring it to your doctor. I think the cool thing about the company is that you can actually speak with a healthcare professional about your labs, and they'll tell you, what you should be thinking about and what's next. But I always think it's great to work with your own personal physician. And, you can get 20% off if you put in Dr. Rach. You head over to trylgc.com/Dr. Rach for that. And, you guys are always so much fun to hang out with.
Rachael.
Man, you guys are the best. You guys are really bringing up topics in the community that we need to be talking more about. So I love it. Thanks for the good times. It's a great way to hang out on a Saturday night.
I agree. I had a blast. What'd you say, Kev?
I knew I was going to learn from Dr. Rachael because I learned so much last time, but I feel like I have like literally learned so much more about this topic, and somehow I feel relieved, even for something that I don't currently, and praise the Lord, that I don't ever suffer with. But sometimes just understand, like, even, Liz, you've always said this a lot, like, I feel normal. This is a lot more normal, and it's not a death sentence, I guess.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Because sex is such an important part of a relationship, of a healthy relationship. And it seems like, some of these things are not necessarily controlled, or they're health related, but she's given us so many tools that it's not just one thing and you don't have no other answer for you.
That's awesome. No, that's great.
That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Dr. Rachael, before we head out, can you give everyone, it's gone. Can you give people your information where they can follow you if they're interested in joining the Rachael Institute, Dr. Rachael Institute, and all of that information?
Sure. Yes. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Rachael. Just make sure you spell Rachael right, Drachael. If you want more information about the Dr. Rachael Institute and how you can become a sexologist, head over to drrachaelinstitute.com. Send me a little message, a DM, however, but head over to the website to find out more about our different programs. If you're interested in learning more about the herbal options for erectile function, email me at efunctionnow@gmail. And of course, if you're interested in getting tested at home and kind of getting some answers to your own issues, head over to trylgc.com/Dr. Rach, and you can use Dr. Rach in the checkout for 20% off your test kit. So love it.
Lovely. Thank you guys so much for joining us today for the very first Love Hour After Dark. I had a great time. We showed cock rings and we talked about erectile dysfunction. I hope that you learned something. I most definitely did. The next one I will announce soon. We're basically going to do these twice a month. I will try to always have a guest and, like I said, deep dive into conversations that we will not cover on the podcast. But the next one will just be Kevin and I, but we'll be answering some of your questions that you have. And I think that's it, child. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, that is in Kevin's name, title, situation. For $5, you'll get access to this, because this will be the very last one that we do live and public for everyone. That is all. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. Thank you for kicking it with us. I hope that you had a glass of wine. I had about a glass and a half. Okay. Bye.
Bye.